Hello and welcome to Business Connect with me, Inshira Ado. This is your business show that gives you insights and inspiration from the lives of business people around the country. Now, today I bring you a conversation around innovation, and we catch up with Dr. Fred Makpaganlori, the founding president of Academic City University College, and he shares with us the importance of innovation as the cornerstone for development. And also, we'll check the world of hustle, where Naki Lord Wuto tells us how under pressure she was able to turn her hobby into a business. Dress Afiba is the name, and we'll learn more about that. And then in business and in life, safety and security is important. But have you ever thought about how tracking and GPS tracking at that can improve the efficiency of your business? Learn more in our digital business segment when we tell you about GPS tracking from Jati K. I'm Inshira Ado. I hope you enjoy this episode. Do share your thoughts with us via social media. You can tweet at us at JoyPrime or at GHRainmaker, hashtag Business Connect. Enjoy the big conversation which comes right up next. So thanks very much, Doc, for making time for us today.
Thank you.
Beautiful setup you have here at Academic City.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I've been wanting to come here forever, and I finally am.
I know you've been saying it, so we're happy to have you.
I'm so happy I made the trip.
Yeah.
But it really fits perfectly into this conversation I want to have with you.
Thank you.
Now, the rather developed economies of the world did start from agrarian economies, and they went through the industrialized phase, and now the so-called knowledge economy.
Age. Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of importance in these milestones.
That's right.
Now, if you look at Ghana, we're now on the cusp of wanting to foray into industrialization.
That's right.
From where you sit, what must we be doing by way of investment, by way of mindset, that will help us achieve that?
Well, I think you are standing exactly in one of these facilities that we need to invest in. When you talk to a lot of students, a lot of professionals, the feedback you always get is that we don't lack ideas. We actually lack the environment where you can actualize these ideas. And a workshop such as this is end of spectrum, right? It gives you an opportunity to come here to ideate and to build prototypes, to experience prototyping, and to build stuff that you can scale up into industry. So I think we need an environment such as this. And of course, we also need to create that whole mindset, that ecosystem of innovation that as a nation, when you have challenges, those are also opportunities for innovation. So a mindset change. We need to reconfigure our educational system to a point where we just don't do projects for the sake of projects, but every project should have an opportunity to not only solve a problem, but to also become a marketable concept. So I think an environment such as this is proper. And the mindset, I think that my emphasis will be, how do we reconfigure ourselves to be an innovation-driven society?
You know, I like the last phrase, innovation-driven society. And recently I've spent some time reading the Startup Nation. And that focuses a lot about what Israel, a very small country with very, small population, have imprinted their innovation and innovation culture on the world. Now, if we were to find a way to leapfrog, apart from environments such as this, apart from the mindset required to change it, what would you say would be the practical things we ought to do? So for example, from my home, what would I need to be doing at home? Because the value chain is quite long.
So look, Israel is a very interesting one. They came at it from many, many angles. Definitely, one of the strongest drivers of innovation is adversity. These guys live in a very tough neighborhood. The land is dry, it's infertile, and you either survive by innovating or quit. The second thing they've done quite well at is that they have immigrants coming in from around the world, from Russia, from the United States, people coming in, and there is money. I mean, some of the really top investors on Wall Street are Jewish guys, obviously. So there's influx. but they also have a very good educational system. University of Tel Aviv, Haifa, I mean, some of the really top-notch universities are in that place. But I think one of the strongest drivers is immigration and also the fact that they live in an environment where they have to survive. I think for us, bringing it home, we need to start teaching our kids to be a little innovative. When we're growing up, girls played ampe, men play owari and cards and drafts. These are some of the most innovative tools that you could have. Now, if you ask kids, even if they know what ampe is, they don't know it. Do they know owari? They don't know it. I pushed a tire when I was a kid. We got innovative by putting water into it and 2 sticks on the side and speeding it up. Before there were skateboards, we were making them out of old ball bearings. So our kids are too insular now, to really experiment, to really get more creative like we were. So I think, driving the essence of innovation, even with your kids, by letting them assemble stuff, engage them, challenge them, talk to them. Our kids are now shutting down, even in COVID. Sometimes I'm at home and I don't know my kids are there. So I'm equally guilty.
Right, so the times have changed.
Times have changed.
But the foundations of what inspires creativity hasn't. It's up to us. We need to make that happen.
Exactly.
So spend more time with the kids, allow them to be more expressive and explore their environment.
Make mistakes, run up to you, guide them. And you don't need to be a scientist or an engineer to do that. I mean, I did a summer program one time for kids, and there was this particular little girl who would come in and she wasn't interested in what we were doing. She just wanted to be on the swing outside. And so the grandma would come and say, am I just wasting my money here, Prof? She's not interested. I said, just give her her space and time. And so about 3 weeks into it, she came up to me one day. Let's just call her Sinam. She said, Dr. Fred, can I get my own kit today? And I gave her one of the most complex kits that none of the kids were able to put together. She sat at a corner, put it up nicely, tested it, and the duck was walking all over the place. And we were all surprised because she was the youngest, she was the one that wasn't interested, and now she actually assembled the most difficult piece. So sometimes kids just need their time, they need their space, and I'm one of those that believe that we don't all have to be team players. We don't all have to be. Some people just are not meant to be team players. What we need to focus on is how do they bring value to the team.
So we find what they're strong at and allow them to express that.
To express themselves.
Okay. Now let's talk about the educational system.
Sure.
I mean, nothing happens without that system.
That's absolutely.
You can have a great idea for Academic City, but of course, without getting accreditation, without situating it within the context of Ghana's education system, it won't fly.
Nothing will happen.
What's the kind of mindset required, both at the public policy level and for investors and dreamers and doers who want to see businesses like an educational institution like this?
Yeah. So I think fundamentally what seems to hold us back is tradition. I say tradition because everybody thinks that the educational process they went to was the best and everybody else should experience it. So I went to KNUST and got a degree in engineering. KSU engineering is the best in the world. Everybody has to go through the process. I got my degree in a classroom, so everybody got to sit in the classroom. We will not accept online education. But I think what we need to do is to take the personal out of it and to step back and look around the global framework and say, what are the hottest ideas, philosophies that are driving education around the world? So you have to come to a point where you have to start feeling like the Finns don't have the best educational system just because they have the best syllabus, or the Brits, or the Americans. Syllabus to a Form 1 kid is the same syllabus everywhere. It is how it is delivered. Okay, that is what makes the difference. So I don't subscribe to a Cambridge educational system, a GSS, and all these things are just conversations. They're just babbling in the background. It's fundamentally what is in it for this country. What kind of educational system do we need to function at the global level? So we need to break away from the status quo. I think the other thing that we are struggling with is that we just have the tendency to go out there and buy technology when we need it. And often in times of crisis, it becomes obvious that we are always taking unawares, right? We're talking about not having ventilators a year ago. So that reactionary mode where the problems are solved through procurement has to stop. We have to innovate. I mean, we're getting to a point within this global framework where we have to innovate to get out of our situation. That's exactly what the Israelites did, right? They can grow tomato in the desert. They can target a plant for exactly what it needs, right? So it doesn't matter whether you have desert around it, the plant gets what it needs. So we need to break tradition. We need to move away from procurement. And we need to look at the educational system itself, because what I see right now is that our kids are over-tested. Somehow we feel like, you know, you need to pass BECE, you need to pass O-levels, A-levels, you need to go through all these. They are basically minefields, right? We just throw minefields in their way and they hop. I think that we have to integrate continuous assessment. I think continuous assessment from your school, your semester grades, your projects, your art and craft, everything has to assemble. There should be a place in this educational system for different types of creativity. You know, when I was in secondary school, perhaps at the same time you were in secondary school, going through the regular grammar process was considered prestigious. If you went to technical school, you were an anomaly.
Yeah.
You were a failure. But actually, think about it. The guys that are building the world now
are the guys who went to the technical
school. So when I talk about mindset, those are some of the mindset that has to change. If a kid is good in carpentering in the classroom, what is available for him or her to take that to the next step, right? But WASI should not determine the future of our kids. WASI should augment the future to our kids. The real future is the stuff that the teachers deal with every single day, and they can quantifiably measure, and that should play a critical role in how, you know, they get tertiary education.
No, it's quite interesting you say this, because I'm not sure if the statement is correct, but apparently kids learn 90% of what they're able to do by action.
Yes.
Not by what they read.
Exactly.
It's by play and
by touch.
Yeah.
You know, as you can see here. You know, telling a kid about a jet engine.
I took a walkthrough and see, I don't know any engineering whatsoever. I was looking at the two-stroke petrol engine. So I started cranking and I kind of said, okay, so that's the piston moving up and down and generating force. And then I looked at the four-stroke and I'm seeing, okay, it's four-stroke maybe because suddenly you now have one piston, but it's driving something that delivers twice the force.
That's right.
Am I right?
Yes, you're right.
Okay, so
and look at this beauty here. This is a jet engine. Okay.
The
guy that actually invented the jet engine was a professor at the University of Dayton, where I got my PhD. And about the same time he filed his patent, Pratt & Whitney in the US also filed a patent for the jet engine. So historically, there's a struggle as to who actually invented the jet engine. So von Orheim actually has his model right at the entrance of our engineering building. You know, and that makes it possible for us to travel across the globe today at speeds that we still wish would be better, right? So there's a new Concorde coming up that is going to cut the trip from New York to London by almost 3 hours.
Wow. You know, it's interesting you say this. Now, this clearly is a demonstration of when minds are put to use in a bid to fix problems.
That's right.
Some of them aren't problems that are present, but you look at the current context and then you forecast what could happen tomorrow and work on those things.
Exactly. And even in policy.
Yes.
You know, in policy you have to figure out this is the policy, but what could go wrong? And that is what we call the unanticipated consequences of policy. Once you know or can anticipate some of these things that could go wrong, then you have a much more solid policy. An example, what is going to happen to somebody when you inject them with the COVID vaccine? You can't just say, I'm going to go inject them and then figure out what happens, right? Because you need to know if they react to it, what else do you need to do to stabilize them? Because ultimately, you don't want people to take the vaccine and die, then others are not going to take it. So people really think through it. How am I going to deliver it? What kind of vaccine do I need to bring to Ghana if I don't have a cold chain? And these are not engineering things. These are things that policy people have to grapple with every single day. And if you don't do that, you're going to have policy failures.
Now, let's go back to a year ago when the pandemic started. You know, you posted something on social media and that got me excited.
Thank
you were prototyping a homemade ventilator system. And we're going to have a look at where you're at with that now. But that for me is an example of innovating your way out of a hole,
crisis,
right?
Yeah.
We still have problems today.
Yes, we do.
How can we learn from that aspect of your work, even for businesses that are not necessarily in education? How do you take a crisis and learn from that so you innovate for the future?
Yeah. So, you know, this is quite interesting. When I started the project, I got a call from somebody in the Ministry of Health, and the first question was, Prof, we heard you are building a ventilator. Have you built one before? And then I said, no, I haven't, but everything else I've built was the first time. Well, that was the last time I heard from him. I guess I could have said something else. But I just wanted him to see that, look, in the space in which I spent 16 years of my life, we react to situations. You know, one of the situations we reacted to was an infestation of hepatitis C in India. Apparently, people were going into waste dumps, harvesting used syringes and needles, wash them, repackage them, and sell them. And up to 3 million people got secondary infections from hepatitis, and we were asked to solve it. So we developed a syringe that allows you to use it one time, and if you try to use it a second time, it breaks. Now, that is what engineers are meant for, to rise up to the occasion. So when I heard the country was about to get shut down, and I'm asking, shut down? I mean, aren't we going to do something about this? Are we just going to fold our hands and pray, something that we are quite good at? Or we're going to say, God, give me the strength to go out there and fix it, which is a different angle of it. So I just sent that email out. I said, there has to be some other people who are itchy and bored at home that would want an opportunity to go out there and do something different. And that was the initial call. And it was quite interesting because one of the students that volunteered was my old student at Ashesi University. And when I posted that message, I was thinking, I hope Adam comes. I hope Adam comes. And he did. You know, just yesterday, I wrote a nice letter to WPI, to the robotics program, and said, give this guy financial support. He is a good, strong, intellectual guy who can bring honor to your institution. That's what I told them, you know. And so we rose up to the occasion, and we started with 6 different prototypes. First, we had to understand exactly the biology of the problem, the physics of the problem. And everybody that came that day brought different perspectives. You know, some were just good at project management. They said, look, you guys ideate and we build. That was exactly what happened. By the 6th prototype, we had something that you could actually put onto somebody today, and they're sitting over there, and give them air, give them oxygen, and stabilize them. So I remember when I first showed the prototype to GIZ, you know, the German entity, one of the guys said, oh, this one looks so clunky, you know. So I said, listen, I worked for Siemens for 7 years. And even in 3 years of a project, we don't get to this stage. This is 6 weeks of work. But come back in another 4 weeks and see what we got. 4 weeks later, he came here and he couldn't keep his camera in his pocket. He was just taking pictures all over the place. And then they came back and said, we'll give you 200,000 euro in funding to take this to the next level.
So you rose to the occasion.
I rose to the
Now,
occasion.
the lesson in there for businesses is that in every crisis, there's an opportunity.
There's a lot of opportunity, and you should not stop digging, because even in the absence of crisis, every business has to evolve. You have to be thinking about what is the next step of it. You know, the same way that Apple looked at his first version and his 12th version and say, how do we bring incremental innovation to what we have? You have to be able to anticipate the future. What are the unforeseen potential crises that are going to come? And as a business, how do you react to it? Because if you don't, you become Kodak. You know?
History.
And we know what happened to Kodak. They were the first guys to invent the color camera, right? But they were so over-invested in the film industry that they didn't want to shoot themselves in the foot. But sometimes, as history shows, businesses actually have to shoot themselves in the foot in order to move to the next level.
And that's what cost them.
Yeah.
So the place of innovation in the home is important, in business is important. Clearly in policy making it's important.
But there's something too that I want to mention. I keep referring to that as indigenization of innovation. Indigenization of innovation. So, you know, right now, if you look at where we are in terms of innovation, we're having a little bit of what I call identity crisis. The identity crisis here is that we are increasingly going abroad and bringing in technologies, but we have problems for which those technologies are not informed. So if you go to my hometown, every dry season, young men, viral, tall, energetic men will come out and they will beat millet. They will beat the millet. They've been beating millet for thousands of years. Now, we should have a method, right? A traditional, innovative, simple solution that beats that. But because it's so integrated into the culture, it's a social event now, we don't see the opportunities to innovate. There was a video that went viral recently of a lady grinding millet on a stone. They've been doing that for centuries. If you try to replace that with an oil-powered, electric-powered system, she'll tell you the food doesn't taste different. So indigenization of innovation means how can we find solutions to these problems that gains efficiency for these users within our context.
So they don't lose the sentimental attachment they have to the process.
Exactly.
So you're bringing efficiency.
We're bringing efficiency
to the things that we already are doing.
That we already do.
I like the sound of that.
Pitot. We are still selling Pitot in calabashes.
Yeah.
I mean, what prevents it? That's the same beer the Germans have been bottling for thousands of years. So how do we indigenize Pitot and still preserve the taste, and yet you can bottle and export it?
Many opportunities.
Many are here.
All we have to do is look around us and say, take what we have to the next level.
Kente, we're still waving kente by hand, right? And some people will prefer to have the handmade kente cloth rather than the one from the textiles industry, right? So how do we develop simple technologies that allows them to reduce the number of days they use to build that kente significantly, but yet preserve the indigenous knowledge within it?
So in a process like that, you would look at not fully automating, but improving certain aspects.
Exactly.
So what kind of, let's take this back to general business.
Sure.
What are the steps that to take to ensure that they have this innovation mindset in action all the time?
So, you know, I get asked this question all the time, and I tell you, I straddle the boundaries between innovation and creativity. So I had the good fortune of working for a German company that was very innovative and with an American team that was very creative. And the process of creativity is very chaotic. The Germans can't handle that. They are so formal, everything has to be structured. But once you throw the creative idea to them, they'll put structure on it, and you get the ultimate driving machine, which is a BM. And I love BMs. Yeah. You know, so I kind of have had the opportunity of being in the middle of both. I really think that, look, for us, we have to empower the people around us. Innovation is also about empowerment. I worked with a guy that one day, a guy had a eureka moment at home. He went to the shop, bought some parts, put it together, and came and showed it to this guy as a problem, a solution to a problem we're having in the market. And the guy looked at him and said, "Who asked you to do this?" So now what happens? This guy would never try anything new because he has to fall into place. So I think we need to empower people. We need to have avenues where people can actually go to with these innovative ideas. And I know the outgoing minister for MESTI had an idea that we should have these centers of excellence where people can come with ideas and we help them refine those ideas and set up commercialization models for them. I think we need room for that. I think we need to actualize this concept the president has that we need to spend 1 to 2% of GDP in investing in innovation. I mean, I think for me, as a head of an academic institution and a practicing engineer, I think what I learned from this COVID period was that we are coming to a time in human history where there is going to be innovation nationalism. Nothing is going to leave the country until everybody is okay. COVID medicine is not leaving the European Union until everybody...
Until they've made sure everyone...
Exactly.
Well, it's self-preservation, isn't it?
Self-preservation.
You know, so, as someone once said, if you and I were stuck in an elevator, we had always been in competition with each other without realizing it. But when the air supply starts getting limited, that's when it will become survival. So it's important that you know, we indigenize these things. Because the problems you would have, for example, even for somebody living on the coast in Accra, would be different from someone living in Hamile. You know, so you can't take a solution from Accra and just carry it, drop it in Hamile and expect that it would work. It has to have some context.
Yeah, and look, the challenge, one of the challenges we have also is that when we are faced with adversity, we actually run from it. That has always shaped our history. You know, when we're told our voodoo practitioners were evil, we ran away from them. When the sea lion started hitting Keita and swallowing land, we were moving away inland, and the sea was in pursuit. That tells you there's a certain point where you have to stand and fight.
Well, the story of Amsterdam.
And that is innovation.
That's the story of Amsterdam.
Exactly.
You know, that the story around Schiphol being an area where ships used to dock.
Exactly.
They reclaimed the land.
They reclaimed the land.
Airport.
Singapore is reclaiming the land. We are building a fence wall at Keita that never gets finished. We should be reclaiming the land. We should be pushing against nature. And anytime you have the courage to push against nature, you innovate.
It allows you room.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be learning more from Dr. Fred Makbaganlori. He's the president of Academic City. And we're talking education and innovation, the platform or the foundations on which we can leapfrog our national development. Stay with us. This is Business Connect. We'll be back with more. Yeah, welcome back to Business Connect with me, Shira Ado, and in our big conversation today, we're having a conversation with Professor Makbaganlori. He is the founder and president of Academic City, and as you can see, we're in the engineering lab, if I could call it that, and the essence of this conversation really is to learn how we can borrow from engineering and apply the principles to business to our lives and everything. Absolutely. And we've talked a bit about innovation. I like the example you give, the creativity and then innovation. The form and the chaos. In our society, culture, the example of the young man being proactive and coming up with a solution to a problem, being asked, who asked you to do that? It's like us saying to little kids, oh, you're talking too much. Kids asking questions like, no, that's too much. You're talking too much. How do we recalibrate our own posture to people who are naturally curious?
You know, I think that one of the things that we need to do is to find a home for these really, really talented and gifted children. Today we lump them together, and it is obvious when you even teach to see the kids that have exceptional capabilities and they are in a hurry and they are driving everybody else nuts because everything around them is too slow. We still don't have that. And we live in the falsehood that everybody is equally intelligent. We are not. I mean, it's not even a normal distribution curve. We have very few people that are really, really brilliant in the world, right? But we have a critical mass that helps them take their ideas to the next level. And I've always contended that one of the things our educational system is well crafted for is the ability to create exceptions. We create few exceptions. So anytime you challenge the status quo, you get told, oh, but this person went to Achimota and went to NASA. This person went to Adisadel and went here. This guy went to Nandom Secondary School. Our educational system has to be so solid to produce these people. And I said, that's fine. But remember, there are so few. Who is going to support them? The rest that you are missing the boat for. So we need a critical mass. So we have to reconfigure our educational system to produce critical mass, while at the same time making room for these kids that never stop talking, that some teacher is going to force to shut up and they never open up again.
You know, these kids are oftentimes, and from the description you give, they're naturally maverick in the way they do things. They don't conform. If we extract this picture and throw it smack into a work environment, somebody who is a non-conformist, but brilliant at what they do, how do you manage someone like that and get them to deliver and ride along with everyone else?
So look, there's a school in the Bronx called the Bronx Science School. And it has a high school. It has produced more Nobel laureates than any other school on earth.
Wow.
The Richard Feynmans all went to, the Oppenheimers all went to this school. And they went and became pace setters, right? We need people to drive the direction of knowledge that we can all harvest, And it comes to my earlier point that, look, we can't all be team players. And we have to understand that, because anytime you force people into a team, you are forcing conformance, and conformance doesn't allow creativity. The reasons why you see the maverick American, right, taking a Jeep and reconfiguring it under a tree, is that they want that freedom to take that car and make it their own. And a couple of years ago, when NASA was actually looking to build the next rover for Mars, who did they go to? They went to the guys under the tree and said, hey, how do you build a rugged vehicle that you can drive on the mountains and deserts of Arizona? Because that mimics the harsh environments of Mars. And that's how they build the rover. I mean, I saw the rover at NASA Space Station in Johnson Space Center in Texas. So these are the guys that we have that are missing. They're missing in our sphere of action. In Ghana, you have to be well educated, you have to be formal, and when you speak, God has spoken. But that is not innovation. Innovation requires a little bit of chaos, a little bit of creativity, a little bit of separation.
Looney Tunes, huh? You've got to be a little loony.
You got to be a loony.
And you see, the thing is this, how do we get around beating the culture of rejecting that which we're not sure of and being afraid of everything we don't know?
Well, that's a generational question you've asked. For me, I think the easiest place to start from is from the formal educational sector. I'll tell you why. I always tell this story about me going to Central State University, where I got my undergraduate degree from as an industrial advisory board. So first of all, think about it. My university reaches out to me 15, 16 years after I left to come back and become a part of a committee that advises them on how they should reshape their curriculum and stuff to be in tune with reality. And then at the end of the year, we'll also go back and see the projects that the students have worked on for their final year and help the teachers to grade them. So on my last visit, which was 2014, I met these 4 boys, really, really bright guys, you know, and they matched me to a workshop. When I was there, that workshop was an electronics workshop. And they had 6 robots, 3 on each side. They said, we built this. I mean, so proudly, okay? And so I said, how did you come by that? They said, well, you know, when the financial market collapsed and people were losing their jobs, we went to the US Department of Labor with a grant proposal that if you give us money, we'll buy some robots and retrain people for high-tech jobs. So they got $50,000, and then they realized that $50,000 couldn't buy 1 robot. So they decided to build their own trainer robots. But here's the interesting story where I'm leading to. So when they were done showing me everything that I was so impressed by, I said, what are you guys going to do after graduation? The first one said, oh, I got a job with Boeing Aerospace. The other one said, I'm going to GM, I'm going to GE. They all mentioned. I said, really? You guys went out there looking for low-cost robots. You couldn't find them. You've built them. And now you're going to leave to go work because you've been configured to believe that you must always seek employment. Don't you think others will need this also? So what we try to do here is to integrate entrepreneurship directly into our programs, right? So that the kids will know that this project I'm working on could potentially make money for me. So I think it is that kind of reconfiguration of the educational system, or even attitudinally. Say, guys, don't just come here, build stuff, and leave them on the shelves. Do you know that everything you touch inside and outside the classroom could be a career-building opportunity? And so I think, you know, often we say, oh, there are no industries that our students can go to and practice. Well, we need to bring the industries into the classroom.
So they could start those industries.
They could start those industries here. So I think attitudinal changes at the school is one place, and then also at home. You know, oftentimes, as you know, president of a university, when parents come here, they want to know whether their kids will get jobs when they graduate. You know, like, Dr. Fred, can you look inside that crystal ball
what job can
and tell me
this one
when
do?
Lucy is going to go when he graduates? And then I said, look, I'm going to be honest with you. The world of work is evolving so rapidly that in 3-4 years, when Lucy graduates from here, I couldn't predict what that job market is going to look like. But what I can assure you is that we are going to give her a toolkit that will make her so adaptable that she will survive in that terrain.
Right, so adaptability, innovation, creativity,
entrepreneurship,
and the space within which all of these can be harnessed.
That's right.
Is important.
That's right.
Well, Doc, thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
All that time would allow us on this occasion.
No
but this
problem.
is not the last visit. I
No
certainly will
problem.
come back again.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
We've
you.
been having a big conversation with Dr. Fred Baganlori. He is the founder and president of Academic City University here in Accra.
Founding president.
Yes, the founding president, I might add. And someday we'll put a bust of you somewhere out there.
I have a job to keep.
So we'll be bringing you more on this show. We'll bring you the digital economy, digital business, and then we'll also bring you the hustle. Stay with us, and hopefully you can walk away with some more inspiration and knowledge. We'll be back.
I am Naki Lord Wuto, Creative Director and owner of Dress Afiba, and this is my hustle.
So, Naki, how did Dress Afiba start?
Okay, so somewhere 2011, I wanted to start a side business. I actually saw someone wearing a tank top, and it looked nice. It was a plain tank top, accessorized with African print. I saw it and I was like, okay, I can do this. But I didn't want to do it myself. I didn't even know I could do it myself. So I bought the necessary materials and took it to my seamstress. Well, after a week, which she promised me should be done, I went in to pick my stuff and it wasn't even done. I mean, I found the fabric exactly where I left them.
Wow.
Yeah, so out of anger, I packed my stuff and I drove home. Now, the tops were for my mates who were my customers. So it was an order I was supposed to supply. Now, I didn't want to tell them that I couldn't deliver. So out of anger, I remember that I had a butterfly sewing machine, a hand sewing machine, which I bought a year before. But I hadn't even unboxed it. It was just sitting there. I don't know what happened. The next thing I realized, I had picked up machine, fixed it, and I had sewn 4 tops.
Wow.
Yeah.
But did you know how to sew before that?
I had no idea.
You've never observed anyone do it?
No, I have. I observed my mother.
Okay.
So, but that was once in a while.
Wow.
But I never stood by her, watched her measure, watched her cut.
So the pressure didn't crack you. It actually just made you take a step to do something.
Exactly, brought something out.
Wow, that's interesting. Now, at the time you were in school, but you also had a job as a secretary in a legal firm.
Exactly.
But I mean, the two are like worlds apart. Did you see yourself doing this full time when you got the inspiration at the time?
Absolutely not. So a friend of mine was like, hey, you know how to sew and you have a sewing machine, so why don't you just get back into it? And I decided to get back into it, still as a hobby. Yeah, it wasn't until I started making a bit of money here and there. And well, I was like, why not give it a chance?
But from making tank tops, which, you know, accessorized is quite simple, even for a complete neophyte like me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't dare try it. But it's not as complex as some of the stuff I've seen you do. How did you go from there to making full outfits for women and even men's clothing now?
Yeah. Well, I just learned. I did a bit of research. I still do research because you can never finish learning. Every day you learn something new. It's just up to you to put it to good use. So I watch a lot of tutorial videos from YouTube on how to do a lot of things. So basically that's where I get my training from. Okay. I'd say so. That's where I get the training from. And while I have 2 or 3 established tailors and seamstresses, so sometimes things get pretty tough. You can't really get it from the videos to the fabric, so you have to go to someone one-on-one, and then they help you out. So
wow.
that's how we got here.
So Naki, you went from hobby to a business, right?
Yes.
It took you a while.
Yes.
And then eventually you gave your business a name. Dress Afiba.
Yes.
What inspired the name?
Okay, so like I said, this hobby thing started 2011, and I had a name then. It was Cuts and Stitches.
Okay.
Okay, then as we grew, we changed to Ataban,
Okay.
which was inspired by a belt, a reversible belt I made 2016 when I decided to go back into sewing. Then when I was ready to register Ataban at Registrar Journals, I found out that a friend of mine had registered my name.
Oh.
Yeah, the person stole the name, so I had to look for a new name. And then I'd already designed a logo which had an A because Ataban starts with A. So I had to find a name that was pretty close, actually starts with A as well. So someone said, okay, try Allura because Northern region there's a language that means needle. And since sewing has to do with needle, I picked it. But I realized that my customers were not relating to the name because Ataban means wings, it means freedom and all that. But Allura wasn't really flowing. So I had to come up with a new name. Again, something that starts with A.
Hey, okay.
Okay, so I am, my mom is Fanti and I'm Friday born, so Mami Efe. But I have distant cousins, relatives who are in Zama, and they call Friday borns, female Friday borns, Afiba, instead of Efe or Ifwa compared to the Ashantis and the Fantis. So, okay, so I decided, okay, Afiba sounds nice, but I just can't do Afiba. And I'm not really keen on the Afiba designs, clothing and all that. So there's a name online which is Dress Lily. It's a brand in the States. I browse and I do some research. So I was like, okay, let me just copy. And I added dress to the Afiba and it became Dress Afiba.
And when you went to register,
It was available and it's authentic and it's mine.
Well, yeah, it's you. You're Friday
Yes.
born.
Yes.
So you make the dresses and you dress the people.
Exactly.
But how did you transition from doing the men's, you started making clothing for females.
Females, yeah.
And then you started doing men's clothing.
Yes. Well, I had a few clients, female clients, who kept on asking if I could make clothes for their husbands and their sons, their grown sons. I didn't learn, I haven't learned how to sew, so I didn't know how to. So I actually employed the services of male tailors, some from Ivory Coast, some from Ghana. And then they started with the men's clothes. So you find a man and a woman or a husband and wife, and then they would want matchy clothes. So you make it for them and they're happy, sometimes with their kids. So we sew for kids as well, so the whole family is covered. So that's how it is. So I'm learning from my tailors. I'm learning how to sew men's shirts and all that, and trousers and all that. Very soon I'll make you a pair.
Okay, well, I need to work on my six-pack so
Please
I can look good
Please
in that outfit. But
Yeah.
this is brilliant. Your final thing I'd like us to learn about your business is, has this been fulfilling? I know being an entrepreneur is not easy, but do you look forward to coming to work every day?
At all. Oh yes, I do. I do look forward to coming to work every day. I do look forward to creating new pieces, actually wearing them myself because I look good in my designs and that's what draws the customers. So I do look forward to coming. But it has its challenges. Sometimes you can come to work the whole week and not, you get money, you pay your workers and that's it. You wouldn't be able to make a peswa. But you need to keep pushing. It's not going to be easy. So we just take it like that, a day at a time. And with COVID hitting us last year, nobody was going anywhere. Weddings and everything numbers had been downsized, sorry. So we're picking up. It's a new year. COVID is still around, but we're praying that things will be better and we'll make up what we lost last year.
I hope so too. That's the hope for us and everyone else.
Yeah.
So when you look back, would you do this again?
I would. Absolutely, 100% I would, but I would do it earlier.
Okay.
And I would pay more attention. I would invest everything I had. Because I always keep telling myself, if only I had sat up earlier, if only I had invested earlier, if only if only. I'm still trying, I'm still working on it.
You're here, it's better late than never.
Exactly.
Thank you very much for welcoming us
Thank
into
you.
Dress Afiba, and we wish you well.
Thank you so much.
Great. Well, that's Naki Lord Wuto, and she's telling us about her hustle. And if you're inspired, take that dream of yours, work at it, and scale the hurdles that come your way, and just keep pushing, one day at a time. You'll eventually break through. Well, Adib, thanks so much. Security and safety is important to everyone.
Exactly.
But you seem to have mastered this and using digital technology to bring safety to businesses and individuals who are conscious of keeping their property and themselves safe. How have you managed to use technology to achieve this?
Well, there are a lot of Ghanaians who keep wondering, if my vehicle is snatched, what do I do? And business owners who have fleets of vehicles with drivers coming home or coming to the office every single day and giving all sorts of stories. So you can imagine if someone has a tipper truck that has to go to the riverside to fetch sand, and he tells you he went once when he went 4 times or perhaps 5 times, how do you know? So we decided to come out with the tracking devices that would not only make you know the location of a vehicle at any point in time 24/7, but you are also able to tell whether the car is moving or not. If it is moving, you can tell the speed at which it is traveling. And the most intriguing part about all of these is the fact that you are able to play back as far back as 7 months ago.
Wow.
Okay, so if perhaps on October 3rd, you want to know where the vehicle has been to, you can play back in an animated fashion. Okay, it will tell you everywhere the car has been, the speed it traveled, where it parked, because you can even engineer or develop what we call parking reports. So anywhere, so if you are dealing with delivery, wherever the vehicle parked, you can develop a report in that regard. In case of an emergency, sometimes you have criminals snatching your vehicle, you don't know what to do. You can shut down the engine of the vehicle from your phone. But assuming they snatch your car with your phone in it, what do? Any device, any electronic device with internet functionality, you can quickly go to our website and log in with the same user credentials like the phone application. Then you can track the car and you can shut down the engine.
Wow.
And we have advanced trackers that comes with the panic buttons. So if you are in a state of distress, you tap on the panic button, it would send some numbers you have assigned to the tracker, panic information about your whereabouts and the fact that you need help. It will not stop until you go back to the system and ask it to stop. Okay, and we have others that comes with microphone within embedded in the tracker.
Okay.
So you are able to listen to conversations in the car. So it comes with endless functionalities that would virtually have your eyes on the car 24/7, even if you are outside of the country. But the good thing about the tracking device is the fact that any part of the country you can track it, whether there's internet connectivity or not. So the internet connectivity only makes the car appear live on the app or the PC.
Okay.
However, if there's no internet connectivity, it uses what we call location-based services. So where there are cell sites, it's able to tap. So with a call to the app, to the tracker, you can get information about the vehicle. With a text message command to the tracker, you can get information about the vehicle.
Fantastic stuff. Now, it's evident that this would be super useful for businesses, and it brings about a lot of efficiency in the way people work. I mean, where there's transparency, there's efficiency.
Exactly.
So for motorbikes, people who have courier and delivery services, how can this, bring efficiency to the way they work?
Well, the sad thing is a lot of us are not very security conscious. We are so reactive to issues of security rather than being proactive. It would interest you to know that over 80% of my clients who are into courier services come around when their bike has been stolen, you know. And some don't really care about the efficiency, but they don't know how much money they are losing, because he goes for like 5 kilometers and tells you there's no fuel. With a tracker, you're able to keep tab on the movements and perhaps even the fuel consumption. Okay, just about a week ago, a lady friend of mine who wanted a tracker on her bike, she was so adamant we had to convince her to install one, who intended starting the courier service the following day. So I asked that, no, you cannot risk it, just get a tracker on it. And we installed the tracker. Even payment was a bit of a challenge for her. And interestingly, Shira, believe it or not, the bike was stolen on its maiden trip.
Wow.
So she called me. She's not in Accra. She called me, what do we do, what do we do? Usually the client has the capacity to go look for the vehicle, but we are also able to step in if she can't or he can't. Considering the fact that she wasn't in town, we had to step in, and we followed up and realized the bike was somewhere around Laboni. So I got to the address, I placed the address under a little surveillance. I called the police number 18555, and interestingly, within minutes, the police were at the scene. Because I didn't have the capacity to go in, we went in there with the police, and the tracker doesn't just tell you the address the vehicle is. Even if it is in the bedroom, you would know, pinpoint accuracy. Okay. So we were able to tell that it's at the back of the boys' quarters, and when we got there, we had one of the thieves, the suspects, with a screwdriver in hand, breaking the car, the motorbike into pieces. So usually, that's what they do. When they steal your car, they will drive it to the nearest garage and they would disintegrate it. So they just
strip it so they will sell it in bits.
And sell it in bits, you know. And the unfortunate thing is the client also made her rider know there's a tracker on it. Usually we don't allow that because you compromise the security of the. In fact, you defeat the very purpose
for which you put the tracker on there. Yeah.
You don't let people know. And the unique thing about ours is we differ every single occasion where we place the tracker. So today it might be here, tomorrow it might be there. And we prescribe that you never let anyone know, even the driver. And usually we don't even make the client know unless you insist. Because a criminal can pretend to be a client just to know where and where we install. And we place it so remotely such that you would need specialized equipment or tools to be able to get there. So by the time you get there, the owner of the vehicle should have been able to tell. Not long ago, we had a similar case of an Uber car stolen. And when we checked, it was speeding towards Aflau.
Wow.
They were going to Togo to sell the vehicle. So instead of shutting down the engine, because they can get frustrated and perhaps ransack the car, we decided to call the nearest police, station. And it was at a town called Akachabo. So when we called them, they were at the checkpoint waiting for the vehicle. So I told them in 1 hour to get to them, in 45 minutes, in 30 minutes. At the very minute I said the car would get to them, it got to them and they arrested them. The guys were shocked. They thought they had a free vehicle to go sell and make some money. So GPS tracking is extremely important.
Wonderful. Well, I think that final question would be, you talked about someone having challenges paying. It sounds like it's expensive.
Well, it's not because, for instance, we're able to retrieve her motorbike using a 400 Ghana cedis device. How much is a Boxer motorbike? Brand new. It's about 7,000. And now that prices of goods and services is going up, it might get to 8,000. So for motorbikes, it's 400 cedis with installation. For saloon cars, it's 600. For four-wheel drives, and the trotros is 800. And for heavy-duty machinery like caterpillars, loaders, etc., it's 1,000 cedis.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's a fraction of the actual cost of the property you want to secure.
It's so negligible.
Yes.
And you don't have to wait to be a victim before realizing the need for a tracker. So apart from the security bit, the accountability bit of it is extremely key. That's true. If you run a business where the drivers would go pick their girlfriends and their children from school rather than official duties, you are able to tell, and you can generate all sorts of reports, mileage reports, fuel consumption reports, parking reports, historical playback, and authorized usage, to the extent that the head of transport can have access to SMS alerts. Anytime the vehicle is started, you receive an SMS that this vehicle has started work. When it moves to an area you have not authorized, that's what we call geofencing. For instance, you run a trotro, you don't want the trotro to go beyond pig farm circle route. But sometimes they're able to get dropped to Kumasi, Koforidia. So you can geofence Newtown pig farm, or pig farm through Newtown to circle. So, and anytime it goes outside, you get alerts.
Thank you very much, Adib, for sharing insights into how GPS tracking works. I like the fact that it can bring a lot of data that businesses can mine for effective decision making. And I wish you all the best. Thank you for welcoming us into Jatike. And we look forward to telling more stories like this and how digital technology can impact on not just safety and security, but also transparency, accountability, and efficiency for businesses. And thank you for watching this episode of Business Connect. My name is Inshira Ado. We'll be back with more next week when we come your way with another episode of your insightful and inspirational show called Business Connect. Until then, be safe out there.